Cleveland Browns, 36. Houston Texans, 22.
Whew.
Now, this was impressive. I know the Texans were dealing with QBs 2 and 3 with Davis Mills and Case Keenum.
2 and 3. It's important.
2 and 3.
Yeah. They decided to play them both.
Yeah.
And I say they. PFF Bobby decided, presumably.
Or D'Amico.
To play them both.
Yeah. Bobby was in the decision. Yeah, Mills and Keenum, the 2 QB system.
You would hope.
Didn't work great for Houston. Cleveland's defense doing their thing. Their pass rush absolutely dominant, but really domination from Joe Flacco and Amari Cooper. Unbelievable. Joe Flacco and Amari Cooper game. Flacco finishes with 368 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Amari Cooper with 11 catches for 265. Started early, hit him with a deep ball. Then there's a 75-yarder in there. There's Flacco throwing the ball along the sideline while in the grasp with
that was kind of crazy.
Flacco hasn't made – you mentioned coming into the game, throw for throw, is Flacco playing great? Not necessarily. But the high-end stuff that Flacco's brought to the table the last 3 or 4 weeks, I honestly don't think we've seen that from him in about 10 years. The high-end Flacco stuff.
This was a phenomenal game.
This was great from start to finish from Flacco. I'm just saying.
This has to have been his best game for
90-plus passing grade, I believe. Very impressive by Joe Flacco. And again, the makeshift offensive line of the Texans just could not handle Zadarius Smith, Myles Garrett, and company on Cleveland's D-line.
There's an outside chance this is the best game Joe Flacco's ever had.
No, he's had some 90 pluses.
Just saying, I'm back to 2015 and haven't come up with a better game yet.
You're just gonna.
I am now.
You have 7 more years to go.
Well, now that it's occurred to me. Now here we go. There you go. Hit it. 2014. This is Joe Flacco's best game since 2014, where he had
early in the year, first 6 weeks.
2 93 grades, one against Tampa Bay and one against San Diego, as was.
There you go. The Gary Kubiak year in Baltimore, I believe that was.
And neither of those games, by the way, were as the Bucs one was as impressive statistically. But yeah, Flacco was insane in this game. Like that was as good pretty much as he's ever played. It was as good as Amari Cooper has ever played. That was the game that, like, Amari Cooper's entire college reel looks like that, where he's just destroying people for A, the entire game, but B, through a massive, like, high volume as well. Like, they went to him all the time. He won in a variety of different ways. He was constantly wrecking people down the sideline. And there've been, like, he's been good in the NFL, but there's always been this slight feeling that his NFL career has never quite been as good as his college career looked like it was going to be. But this was that game where you're like, damn. I mean, that was, like, one of those bombs wasn't quite the standard Joe Flacco underthrown, like I'm looking for the pass interference call, although he never is. But it was in that realm, you know?
Yeah.
And Cooper just went up over a guy and absolutely destroyed him, took the ball away from him, whoever that was, 37 for the Texans.
Yeah, I can't even believe, man. The other thing to add to how impressive it was.
D'Angelo Ross, that was.
Of course. How impressive this was. Browns had a pass blocking grade of 46.7. And we've talked about how they're to talk about QBs 2 and 3 for Houston. We're at tackles 4 and 5 here for the Browns. That didn't go great.
Right.
So the pass blocking wasn't necessarily good. Flacco's making these plays under pressure and everything. And again, I want to reiterate, I think like the last time he was a starter with Denver, it was like, I don't think his arm was that great. Like, it didn't look that great. Now it feels like the zip's back. I mean, he's rest. He's on like 3 years rest, you know? The arms, he's got the zip. He's putting the ball into tighter windows with smooth velocity and accuracy, and it's really impressive.
As an older gentleman yourself,
yeah,
you'll know that when you hit that age, recovery time is lengthened.
Recovery is important.
Yeah, and it's extended. You can't bounce back the way you used to in your youth.
Yeah,
right.
You might need a year off to get the arm fresh.
That's what I'm saying. You just need some time to get everything back physically. Poor old D'Angelo Ross, by the way. 1 target in the game, 1 catch, 75 yards at a touchdown. That's a rough passer rating for D'Angelo.
Sorry, Ross. 4 official big-time – official. It's an official stat per PFF. My stat. 4 official big-time throws for Joe Flacco. What a fascinating game football is, right? We're going to talk in about 3.5 hours. We're going to talk about Patrick Mahomes and his struggles on Christmas. You have Patrick Mahomes, inability to complete a pass beyond the line of scrimmage, and you have Joe Flacco fresh off the couch leading a 10-win Browns team and far more productive than the guy that we always, that we think is the best quarterback in the league. That's just the nature of football and the ebbs and flows of an NFL football season.
I mean, if you just looked at the list of quarterbacks that played football this week, it would be insane. And then categorize them into good or bad. I mean, on the good end of the spectrum, Joe Flacco played well, Bailey Zappi played well, and yet Patrick Mahomes had one of the worst games of anybody in the season. This week made no sense at all.
Charlie Heck made his second start of the season for the Texans. Played in right tackle, 15 pass block grade. Not trying to pick on Charlie here, but
didn't help.
Za'Darius Smith, they put Myles Garrett over him a bunch. Za'Darius Smith, it was rough. The Texans' offensive line was way worse than even the Browns' offensive line, who I mentioned had their struggles. Once again, the Browns' pass rush, just dominant, man. And it's funny, if you look at Myles Garrett's wins, I think it's the second straight week he's got like 6 in a row under 5 minutes in the fourth quarter, where it's just must pass situations, and Myles Garrett just literally doesn't get blocked. Because you're talking about most of the time those guys win. Like if a defensive end wins 1 out of 4 reps, it's good, and he's winning like 5 out of 6 and 6 out of 7. That's just the nature of Myles Garrett, but also the Browns' pass rush and just how dominant they can be.
13 pressures Charlie Heck gave up.
Yeah, it was rough.
That's not great.
2 interceptions by Case Keenum. We've got a batted pass and him getting hit while throwing. So I think when you look at the Browns' defense this year, they've been aggressive on the back end, playing a lot of tight man coverage, but in the pass rush, like how impactful is a pass rush to Bay? Like these were 2 interceptions that were directly attributed to the pass rush by the Browns, and it shows just how dominant they've been this year.
For the second time in this season, the Texans have been involved in a game in which one of the teams lost their kicker early and couldn't kick and had to go for 2 every time.
Yeah.
This time they were on the other side of it. The first time it happened to them and they had to play the entire game that way. This time, Dustin Hopkins, right, wrecked his hammy trying to stop a kick return touchdown. That's gotta suck. So anyway, then the Browns can't kick anymore. So they had to have, and they brought in DTR as like the designated 2-point quarterback.
Yes.
So Flacco would get them.
It's a nice little change of pace.
Yeah, Flacco would get them to the touchdown, and then you bring in the guy that can run, so that even if the play goes to hell, you can extend it for a bit and try and just get the 2 yards on the ground with the quarterback. I didn't actually check overall what were they net to the good or to the bad with the forced decisions that not kicking, because I know the Texans were way up when that happened to them.
Succeeds, fails,
okay,
succeeds, succeeds.
Okay.
Oh, no. No, they were 2 for 3. Sorry.
Well, that's still,
because I read the Texans one.
Okay, that's still good.
2 for 3.
But you also need to factor in the turn downs, right? The 4th downs where they go for it instead of kicking a field goal because they can't. Anyway, the point being, when it happened to Houston earlier in the season, like they were net way up from being forced to go for the 4th downs and the 2-point conversions. I'll check at some point whether the Browns were, but on the back of having Coach Kelly in talking about never kicking, never going for it in 4th down, always going for 2, all those kinds of things, it'll be interesting to see if like every time it's forced on NFL teams, they're actually more productive. Yeah,
it makes you pull out the good 2-point plays. There's a lot to it. The 4th down aggressiveness. Either way, it just makes it more volatile. So again, what does this mean? Browns go to 10 wins. Currently the number 5 seed. They're a game ahead of Buffalo for that last, or for the top wild card spot. So the Browns look like they're in control of the number 5 seed and the ability to play the AFC South winner, which is completely wide open. Rough weekend. If you're an AFC South fan, as people have said, if you're rooting for the AFC South, if you've got forget the Shield cap, the AFC South cap every Sunday, you're like, come on, Jags, Texans, Colts, Titans, let's go. It's a rough weekend for you.
Do divisions have their own logos? Is there like an AFC South logo?
I would buy all 8 and just rotate them. Forget the Shield.
Because I know obviously the AFC and the NFC have their own logo, but do the divisions?
They should. They absolutely should. And we'll make it like college, where you don't root for a team, you just root for a conference. I used to be an Alabama fan. Now I'm just SEC, man.
Strictly.
Just means more. Just rooting for the SEC. So Browns with their 10 wins. The Texans in that AFC South, how hard could it be? They fall to 8-7 with the other 2 teams atop the division. So the Texans, again, on the outside looking in, at the moment at the 8 seed, but they're all 8 and 7. Jags, Colts, and Texans, and then of course the Titans.
8 and 7 is the new 7 and 6.
It's the new 7 and 6 because we're 2 weeks later from where we were.